your first project is the most important project you ever do. Because if you build a community and you let them down on your first project, it's really hard to come back from that. Like your next project, everyone's gonna remember that.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Pivot Talk with me, Alex. Joining me for today's episode is somewhat of a global pioneer in the NFT space. He is a former media buyer and marketing director, in which he launched ads on social media with a monthly spend in excess of 500K. My guest today has used his experience in media buying to get in early on the NFT game, and as a result has earned his spot as one of the leaders in the NFT space. My guest has also launched 2 NFT projects of his own, which both sold out and earned roughly $19 million between them in the first 20 hours, by the way. With that staggering figure to lead us into this episode, I am honored for the opportunity to sit down and learn from Arvin Khamseh. Arvin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's just jump right into some basics. And I know a lot of my audience are listening. I feel like there's a divide. There's half who are really, really into NFTs and really understand the space and really want to learn more. How can they sell NFTs and launch their own projects? But I'm sure, sort of like myself, that there is a second group of people who are really intrigued by the space, but are still not really sure what NFTs are. And I have to ask you the question, as briefly as you think is necessary, how would you describe an NFT? What is an NFT?
Perfect. Just before I do, I just want to make sure your listeners are clear. So the 2 brands that you mentioned, they are not my brands, but I've helped their marketing. So meaning like I took their entire marketing and I helped them sell out. And in a little bit, I can tell you more like why marketing is the major thing actually for any brands, really, NFT brands, to be able to sell out. But just wanted to clarify that so then people not confused about that. But
well, thank you for clarifying that, by the way.
Of course. Okay, so as far as NFTs, okay, so I mean it's interesting. Like there are a lot of people even trading NFTs all the time, and then if you ask them, they'd be like, "What is NFT?" And they'd be like, "I don't know." Like it's just like really cool, right? So it's non-fungible token. Basically, you can think of it as something that cannot be replicated. So we are in the era of verification. Everything needs to be verified now, right? So I don't know if you remember, but there was a time where like, you would buy these hats and then you had like these labels on them. And then if you didn't, then people would be like, that's fake. So that's the idea of like, or let's say if you're buying a specific brand like Armani or Gucci, and then you not sure if you bought it, like if you bought the genuine version, right? So we're trying to solve that problem with NFTs where we know for sure that record of that specific piece, whatever that is, it could be audio, video, image, whatever that is actually stored in the blockchain. It's like, think of it as a large database. And so everything can be verified now. And the cool thing about that is you can no longer just say like, hey, like I bought this thing and it's a specific brand. And I'm not sure if it's fake or if it's not fake, right? You know for sure that everything is like going to be genuine in that case, right? And then so I think a lot of people are going to be thinking, be like, okay, well, can we just like take a screenshot of a Bored Ape, and that would be like, is that good enough for a for NFT? And so the purpose of NFTs is not so much of like, I mean, it wasn't designed for people to make money. But now, obviously, a lot of people make money from it. But the idea was just for an artist to be able to say, "Hey, this is my artwork, and no one can steal it." Right. So that's the premise of it. But then it's really cool because of that, everything becomes valuable. So everything is rare now, right? So there's only like one specific version of everything. So that.
Yeah. So do you think we need NFTs? Like, do we need this? And like, what are the benefits of this? Maybe you see, in the future.
I mean, I was at the gym this morning, working out with my buddy, and we had to enter three steps passwords to get into a uh, an app that this guy has on his phone. And I was just thinking about this. I was like, 10 years ago, this wasn't the case, right? So like you wouldn't need to like have your like face verified and then put a like a 2FA, and then maybe like verify with your phone number and then verify in your email to get into a specific app. So I think we have evolved to want to have more protection, more verification. So is it necessary? I mean, it's just the next thing, right? So it's like we've gone to this place that we needed at this point. And then also, so that's one way to think about NFTs. The other way is just because the infrastructure behind it is so much. So large companies now have NFTs. They have virtual lands, and virtual lands is going to be populated with NFTs. There's no other way you can populate it. Like it just doesn't. So the virtual land on its own doesn't do anything. You have to have NFTs to have characters, to have vehicles, armor, whatever you want to have, right? So for that reason, we're going to have NFTs if we want to or not. And also, if you think about crypto as well, crypto is stored in NFTs. So that's also not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. So, you kind of answered this next question already, and it is sort of, why does they cost so much, right now? And you said, well, because it's one thing, it's unique. So this is rare. So there is only one of these in the world. But I think the way I should phrase this question is, why do people pay so much for a JPEG of an ape, Bored Ape, right? They go for millions. They're not particularly complex pieces of art, really. Yeah. So why do they cost so much? Like, what is the value of someone owning that for $4 or $5 million?
Exactly. So I would tell you, like, this is actually what I was saying at the beginning of this episode, where I said marketing is the biggest thing when it comes to NFTs, just because without and marketing brings the community in Discord and Twitter specifically behind a specific NFT project. So if that community doesn't exist, the NFT on its own has no value intrinsically. Even if it's done by someone that's just like really famous, right? It just has no value because it's a JPEG file, right?
Yeah, of course.
Now, and so then the community actually assigns a value to it, and it's kind of random. Like, I mean, so I've consulted more than 300 NFT brands over the past few months alone. And I would say, so a lot of them come to me and they say, hey, like, what price should be put? And I'll be like, hey, the average right now is like equivalent of $500. So that's a good starting point. So back then it was like 0.07. Now it's closer to like, let's say 0.2 ETH. And for those people who don't know what ETH is, that's Ethereum.
Yeah.
So we start like I and like a lot of people, like I find ourselves like just talking in certain terms that like no one else knows what it means. But okay, so yeah, like equivalent of 500. But then not everyone starts with that. Like a brand that I consulted, they had I'm not gonna name it, but they had their artwork at 30 ETH. So it's a lot of money, right? So now the price is arbitrary. Like literally, the marketing will determine the price. The community will determine the price. And then if people can buy it, then that price will even go higher. And there's a lot of things, like there's a lot of details into. So there's this thing called a floor price, meaning the lowest price a NFT is being sold for. Now that is an indicator of like how successful a project is one of the indications. Now that can go up, can go down. So you could buy an NFT for, let's say, 500, equivalent of $500, and then it could go to like $3. Or it could go into like millions. Like that's and it's all based out of what community does. So if they all start selling it for a low price, the floor price goes down and the whole thing crashes. If they all start just actually like saying, hey, no, you know what? This is a very valuable thing. We're going to hold on and we're going to actually like sell it for a large price, then the price will increase. So it's down to people this time versus let's say a more of a centralized market where people have no say in it. Like you just go and buy and you're told what the price is of everything.
Yeah. So, well, how does it work then with celebrities? Because celebrities can sell NFTs, from what I've seen, for a lot more. Like Logan Paul, Steve Aoki, they're big in the game. Gary Vee. How could they sell their NFTs for more money? You said it's this cultural thing, right? But how does that work?
Yeah. So you just got to think about how, like, first of all, they don't need to do as much of marketing. Like they don't need to be creative or anything. Like they just have the following already. All they have to do is literally just talk about a specific project and it will go up. Like I give you an example. So I used to have one wallet that had like 100K worth of NFT in it. It got drained about like a week ago. There's like a video.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. There's a video on like how it got drained so other people like doesn't happen to other people. And it's on my like Twitter handle. It's at Arvin K NFT if someone wants to watch it. But I had this NFT that's called Alien Friend. I bought this for $500, and then Gary Vee bought it about a week later, and it went to 10K. And so just because he talked about it, so like a lot of people rushed into actually buying it, and then a lot of people also like holding the price at a larger price. So that's how it went up. There's no intrinsic value that changes in the NFT. Although there's some NFTs now, they have like dynamic rarity, which means, let's say for example, it's like a game that you play, and as you play the game and you reach a specific high score, the value of that NFT increases. So there's things like that now. It's just coming out this year. There's a lot of like creativity with NFTs that I'm seeing. Last year it was just like a JPEG, and here's a community behind it. Let's just sell out. In like they would spend like a month to sell it out. And then like on the day of like mint day, in about 20 hours ish, they would sell out, and that would be like, they would on average maybe make like $6-7 million, and then that would be the end of it. But this year things are getting very complicated and advanced. Like a lot of people introducing like staking, like many variations of utilities. And for people who don't know what I'm talking about as far as utilities, is basically, let's say if you hold a specific NFT in your crypto wallet, then for example, one specific one, again, I had in this wallet that it got drained, but they would give you 50% of so basically 50% of the profit of this casino would get distributed amongst the holders of this NFT every month. So it's a virtual casino, and then obviously they make money, they make profit, and then 50% of that profit would go to everyone who is a holder of an NFT from that project, right? So that's the kind of utility. So that's the utility, and this year we're gonna see a lot more of that. Now, so did I answer your question? Why pricing is for these guys?
You absolutely did.
Community behind them, and when they basically hype something up, then everyone gets excited about it. They go like the prices go higher and higher. Like that's what it is. And then sometimes it's also, so I think one thing to think about as far as like projects, and this is good for someone who wants to create a project and also someone who wants to buy a project. So what goes on actually into like as an investor to actually look for a project that's going to do well is if they have a marketer that has proven success, right? So, and if you think about it, like going back to your question, if like, let's say Gary Vee, Gary Vee is like has like one of the biggest marketing agencies, right? So if you think about it, like people know, they're like, okay, he's going to figure it out. And he already has the community, but even he's going to figure out the marketing side of things. Then next thing is like, okay, is the art good? Like, do I like the art? Do I enjoy it? Even if like the project completely bomb, would I be happy that this is completely useless, but I just like to see it? The cultural references, the let's say the people that are behind this project, like who is behind the project, the website, the way they did their contract, so many other factors. But like one big factor is like, hey, who does the marketing, and is this project gonna actually sell out? And people, when let's say Logan Paul or Gary Vee does it, they know because they have so many people so many fans, they know it's gonna sell out. So they're confident that the project is going to sell out and going to deliver on their promises, which is the opposite of a project that's not going to deliver on their promises. And that's called a rug pull. So in this community, it's called a rug pull.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I'm actually a part of the Gary Vee has a Discord group, cool. And it's clear to me from what you said. You keep saying marketing, community, that's what really matters. So let's talk a little bit more about your experience and how you got into the NFT space, because essentially that is what you bring to the table. It's the marketing, right? And if that's so important, then obviously the expertise that you have, it's invaluable. So take me through the journey. How did you actually get into the NFT space?
Yeah. So back in 2016, really good friend of mine, Nick, we would go to a lot of different restaurants and bars, and I would just find this guy, like, he's just very distracted on his phone all the time. And, I would ask him, be like, bro, like, what are you doing? Like, and he was on his phone just checking like the prices of Bitcoin. So he was a big investor of Bitcoin back in 2016, like literally. So this guy had a 9-to-5 job in his 20s. And then he literally like he sold his car, like everything he had, it was just in Bitcoin. And then few years later, I call him and I'm like, hey, Nick. So I at that point, I moved out of LA. I used to live there. And then I called this guy and I'm like, yo, what's going on? And he's like, and I'm like, hey, man, like, how's work? And he's like, what work? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, retired already. Like, don't need to work.
He must be rolling in it now.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like 2016. If he put everything his heart and soul into Bitcoin, he's probably set for life. In fact, I can guarantee that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I saw that, right? And then I just always wanted to, and he's like a really good friend of mine. And I just really wanted to actually get into like an opportunity to that size. And then about 2 years ago, I saw the NFT. I saw the first, like, I guess, article about NFTs. And by the way, NFTs been there longer than two years ago, but this is when I got introduced to it. And then I was like, this is really cool. And I just could see it. Like, I recognized the pattern. I was like, this is going to be big. And then I and my sister started actually looking into things. We started buying and trading our stuff. And just slowly, like at some point, I didn't even know what a MetaMask wallet is, or like, what NFT is. And we were buying already. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I think lots of people who buy and sell NFTs don't really know. They may not even know what NFT stands for,
Yeah, exactly. And that's good and bad, I think. But so anyways, I did that. And then now my background is running a lot of advertising for public companies for the investor relationship marketing. And a lot of those concepts that I did for these public companies, it was transferable into NFTs. So I had one example of a client that came in and, I helped him sell out his entire NFT collections in a week. And then, and this was like a small artist too in Italy. And he just had like maybe 12, 13 different like pieces of art. And I helped him sell out his artwork with Twitter ads. This is like year and something ago. And then I was like, this is really cool. Like, I have this knowledge and experience that not many people have, because they don't get to like run that much of advertising spending for like investor type of marketing. And I was like, if I bring this into NFT, it will do really well. And I mean, last week I had 2 brands that they both sold out in 7 minutes. One brand, Woman of Crypto, yesterday, they sold out and they were like the top of the OpenSea on the trending, and also IC Tools. They were the top. So it's been working really well, and I plan on bringing on a lot of these NFT brands from like nothing to just like the top of the OpenSea. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really impressive that you can do that, because there are so many projects right now, and what it looks like is that they all instantly become super successful. But from what I've heard, a lot of them just go zero nearly straight away. And I think if you look at all the different projects that are out there, to go from zero to having this community and being top of OpenSea, which I believe is one of the biggest platforms for for trading. That's really impressive. So you obviously got in quite early, or early to the mainstream, NFT market. Yeah. So are we still early in the NFT world, or was things sort of moved on now? So like, would I be able to get in and really make the same success buying and selling NFTs that I could have done when you got in?
I think it's still good time. Like, I think it's still early. And in fact, like if you actually go look at the stats done by, I think it's called a Statista. Like NFT stats, different countries, and then also OpenSea's done a bunch of stats. They've done one in October, one maybe in December as well. So US and Canada are very behind on NFTs. So that's why and then also like, let's say, I think UK is very behind. Australia, not so much. Australia is kind of like up there as far as like they know what's going on. New Zealand is also like very, very familiar with NFTs. United Arab Emirates, I would say Hong Kong, Singapore, China, and Philippines. And Philippines is because of a game called Axie Infinity. But anyways, there's certain countries that are very well versed, and like they have like a ton of like NFTs or NFT holders rather. But for the majority of like people, they don't know what still NFTs are, right? It's still, they think it's just like some JPEG thing that you can screenshot, and they're like, what's the point? But I think this is what I've been telling everyone. I think in 6 months' time, it still would be good, but I don't think it will be as profitable as it is now for people. I think it would just get crowded. Like, I just see way too many people getting into, like, initially, like I was seeing a lot of brands that like, okay, there are these companies or these investors that have a lot of money would come to me. But now I'm seeing like people who are just like, hey, we have like, this small budget, but we're gonna like crush it. Like we want to like get into the game, right? And to your point, as Gary Vee also says all the time, it's like 99% of the NFT projects will fail. And actually, when he says that, a lot of them do go down. Like literally, the moment he says things like this, like a lot of these projects.
Yeah, it's like Elon Musk and crypto, sort of
Literally, it's like I asked all my clients. I have a Discord server with all my clients. I literally asked them, I was like, "What's the worst thing that like happens like on a regular basis to you guys?" And they're like, every time Gary Vee says 99% of the NFT brands will fail. Like literally everyone in the community leaves, like no one wants to do anything. So but like I guess going back to your point, I think it still is good time. Like right now, still is a good time.
Yeah. And I think I know we're talking about Gary Vee a lot, but he's huge in this market. But I think he said that this year, or 2021, and I think 2022, but mainly 2021, he said that was the year of like the boom, the volatility, the big money, and the big profits. And then it'll kind of settle down, like all things do, So we were still in that really sort of naive starting period. We didn't really know where it was going, but I think now we have more of a direction, so things may calm down. But obviously, this isn't an area that I'm particularly familiar with. But it's nice to know that there are still opportunities, so that I could still try my hand at this and and do that. But so I'm still, you said, it's all about marketing, right? And you're an NFT marketer, as I believe. So what is it that you offer, your clients? Like, what do they expect to get from, as a service from you?
Yeah. So what I help them. So imagine a brand comes to me and they're like, hey, we've got this cool art. And we've come up with a cool roadmap. And of course, I help them because I've seen so many roadmaps as well. I can tell them certain things that they can optimize. And then they say, here's a cause we want to be after. And then, so they have all these pieces, but then they're like, but that's all we got. Now, how do we actually sell this? Right? So on its own, if they just sit with that art, or if they just upload it to OpenSea, nothing happens. Literally nothing happens. No one buys it, literally nothing. So then what I do, I actually help them in about 2 to 4 weeks, build a community from zero to, let's say, somewhere around, let's say 50K, 60,000 people on their Discord, minimum. That's for a 10,000 supply type of project. That's typically what we do.
So you need at least sort of 50K, 40K-ish.
Yeah, for if it's a 10,000 supply.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I help them literally build that. And that's on Discord. And majority of conversations about NFTs actually happen on Discord, but also Twitter is very important. It has to be presentable. So I help them with both. So Twitter and Discord. But then also there's a lot of pieces that I've just seen way too many launches in NFT where I can just tell them, hey, if this happened, just do this, right? If you want to postpone let's say you think you're going to be late, postpone to this date instead, or do this and have this many whitelisters. Those of you guys don't know what whitelisters are, it's basically if you have a wallet, like a crypto wallet, it can get pre-approved for buying an NFT at an earlier date than the public would buy it. So that's called a whitelister. And so this whitelister is going to be a big thing this year. So already I'm executing that with a lot of my brands where you're going to see a lot of these brands where they sell out in 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 15 minutes. It's just because they already have a lot of people who committed to buy. And then when they open it to public, it doesn't take that long for it to just sell out. It's so few left that it obviously sells out in 5
So the main work happens before, and then it's just a matter of, hours, and then it's gone.
Exactly.
Right. So essentially I could upload an NFT to OpenSea and nothing happens for months. But with the right marketing, that could lead to me selling out and making millions in a few minutes or hours.
Yeah. And that's actually very, so I was actually telling my buddy, first online product that I sold was back in 2000 and almost 13 or 14. And it was a $37 product. And I remember I was just there was this podcaster wanted to buy it from me. And he was asking me question for 8 hours to buy this $37 product. And these guys that come in and do NFTs, and this is a great thing though, it's an awesome thing, but they've never made $1 online. Some of these guys, they've never made $1 online. And then they come in a month, they make $7 million. And it's crazy. To me, that's, the amount of work I've put into, and I'm not mad at it, by the way, but it's just very cool. I like it. Where, for example, my sister, she made in a day, she made as much money as she was making every month, just trading NFTs. And to me, that's the coolest thing, because now you have a lot of, it's power. It's a lot of accessibility to wealth, which wasn't available.
Yeah.
But now it is. In 2 to 4 weeks, you could be a millionaire. That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on that then, how much money do you think I would need right now to make myself, say, $5 million in 2 to 4 weeks? Or maybe longer, but how much money as a budget do you need to really get this thing going?
Yeah. So I want to put this in context. So the top right now on the OpenSea ranking, and it may just by the time maybe people listen to this may not be there, but I believe it's called Clonex X. That one, they've raised $6 million for their marketing, right? So you gotta put things into context in there, right? Now, having said that, a lot of brands that I work with, somewhere around for the marketing, I would say somewhere around, let's say 50K is 50K to 100K. That's around the amount people spend. Now, so then the question becomes, it's okay, So there are some larger brands that obviously they come into me and they're like, hey, can we spend like, 200K a week and on just like, let's say paid advertising. And so I'll do that for them. But then there are also some brands where they come to me and they're like, hey, we don't have that much money. Like, what are we going to do? Right. So then the question is like, okay, do you really have to do a 10,000, like a 10,000 supply project? You don't have to. You could do a 2,000 one. You could do a smaller one. You make a bunch of money. You may not make like $8 million, but maybe you make like, let's say 300K, 400K, right? And then you take the money, obviously you pay yourself, but then you take that remainder of the money, you inject it back into your next launch. And this time, because you've done a launch that was successful with, let's say 2,000 supply, or maybe even like 1,000 supply, now the community believes in you because you didn't just cash out and, gone to some random place, just drinking margarita and just like not caring about people. But now it's going to be even simpler for you to be able to launch that 10,000 project. So if they have a budget, obviously use it, throw money in there. If not, then do a small project, make money, and then put it back into it. Yeah. So then you can do a larger project.
But I'd imagine you still need a decent sized budget, even for a small project.
I would say so.
Yeah. And because, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say the important part here is, I think the distinction here is like, the first project is the most important project you ever do. Because if you build a community and you let them down on your first project, it's really hard to come back from that. Like your next project, everyone's going to remember that. Everyone who looks up this project, first of all, everything is in the blockchain, so nothing can be like erased or forgotten. And then second of all, like people remember. So then it's harder to make success out of like something that didn't go well. Versus if you do something very small and it goes really well, then you can just build on that.
Yeah. The reason I wanted to know exactly, in terms of how much it would cost is because you see people making, 150K with, or at least that's what I see, on social media, buying NFTs. You can buy them for like $500 and then make six figures. And I just wanted to know if it was the same for launching or selling NFTs. And it's clear, it looks to me like it's a sort of like a pay to play game, because a lot of people won't have a budget to launch an NFT project like that. And like, it's, I'd love to make 7 million, but I don't have, six figures or even 5 figures to throw into this, but on the other side, then you've got buying NFTs, and you can buy an NFT for $50, and some people have, and they've made lots of money,
Exactly. And then also think about it this way too. It doesn't have to be your own money. You can grab an investor and pitch them on the idea. Hopefully you believe in your own idea enough that an investor could get behind that too. And there you have it. Like you can have access to as much money as you would think. And then the next thing is just, I think what people could think is just be like, well, where am I gonna find an investor? Trust me, like investors would love for someone to tell them, hey, there's this cool NFT project right now, and we're gonna make a lot of money. Because investors don't have time, and they just rather someone comes and execute on that idea, someone that they truly believe in. So they would actually be like over the moon to see if someone comes to them and say, hey, like, can we do an NFT project? Because they'd be like, hey, I see this thing, everyone's making money. How do I make money? I've got power, I've got money, but like, who's gonna do it? I'm not gonna do it, right? And then so like, let's say if you go to them and be like, hey, here's the idea, here's the marketer, here's the like artist, this is what we got, and we're gonna like launch this in a month, and this is the return of investment for you. They'd be like, where do I sign? Right. So like that's the concept. And also like think about it as for marketing a business, any business, 30% of the entire revenue should go into marketing. So if it's $1 million,
okay,
300K, right? But a lot of brands that I worked with, we didn't even like spend that much. We already like killed it with a lot less.
Yeah. So your job doesn't include, so for example, Bored Ape Yacht Club, right? And people who know NFTs will have heard of that, so I'll use that as an example. Do you have any participation in coming up with the idea or the graphic itself? Or do people come to you with an idea and you just need to make sure that that is successful? Like, how does it work? So how do I go about, thinking about how an NFT is launched? Do I have to come up with the idea myself and then come to you?
No, that's actually really good, really, really smart question, because so there are some times where people make it like basically make these choices that you can't reverse, right? So they're like, you made your art, for example, 2D, and then not knowing that like 2D is going out of the way. Like now everything is going to be 3D, right? So that's like a big choice, right? And if you're committed to that like 2D, then I mean you've made it very hard for yourself to be successful, right? So there's certain things like that. If you ask a marketer, they will be able to tell you, like even on roadmap. So give you one example. One of the brands that I helped sold out because of what I'm about to say. I'm not going to say who that is, but they sold out in 7 minutes. And then when they came to me first, they said, hey, they're going to put some of the money of this they make from this project into the cause that they want to support is global warming. And I was like, that's cool, but that makes no sense. So the reason is the NFT community and the global warming community, they're the exact opposite side of the spectrum. So like all the mining that happens, apparently like, completely like destroys the planet. So now that's not a very smart thing to have on your roadmap to say, hey, like we're going to spend a lot of our, money into like global warming, even though that may be a cause that you're really after, right? So certain things like that, it's very important to know and seeing certain things, see the patterns, and also like, and then so that's as far as the cause and roadmaps and things. When it comes to the ads, for example, I mean, I know right now, and I'm pitching to change this, but right now, Twitter ads do not so Twitter ads cannot be run for play to earn NFT games. So if you're coming up with a play to earn NFT game, then you kind of already ruled out Twitter ads for yourself, right? So things like this are very actually significant thing, right? So if you already committed to building a game and then you telling a marketer, be like, hey, this is what we want to market, you didn't account for, okay, is this like a easy, like, is this something we can actually advertise, right? Currently, we cannot advertise a play to earn. Now, of course, I have some ways around it, but you cannot, technically you cannot, right? So things like that are very important to have someone who's an advisor, who's a marketer, and can tell you, be like, hey, this is how it would go if you do this, if you commit to this choice.
Yeah. That's actually really fascinating. I've never actually thought of NFTs in this light before. I never thought of the marketing. And a question has just come to my mind, and it reminds me of one of my friends who actually, his Instagram was recently hacked, and somebody went on there sort of saying, Bitcoin mining or something, and join now, and right. And my point is, and I think my point is, everything looks like a scam these days. I cannot tell you how many message requests I get on Instagram saying join this new NFT project, and I just ignore them because I'm suspicious. I am suspicious, and a lot of people shouldn't be, because a lot of these things are they just want a quick buck. It's almost like the pump and dump you've been having in crypto. And I just think I just can't think, oh, this looks like a good project. It's like, it may look good, but who's behind this? So my question specifically is, how on earth do you grow a community of tens of thousands of people? Like, the conversion rate with these ads must be so low. Like, how does it work? How do you actually manage to get people on board?
I mean, I tell you, like on Instagram ads, we get a new Discord member at about 0.5 to $1. And these are very engaged people. But to your point though, one of the NFT brands that I worked with, unfortunately, they turned into a rug pull. And not to my knowledge, obviously, I would never advise anyone to be a rug pull. And I found out later on, where I was just browsing through their Discord, and then I saw it was a mess. First of all, like, everyone was angry. People were just freaking out. And then, honestly, it was very, it was like, I mean, it's just scarring, right? So it's just every time, like, I was talking with these founders of this brand like maybe once or twice a week, and they're nowhere to be found right now. So then this is something I did with my community. I said, listen, this is the current situation with NFT right now, where certain people come in and they don't see the big picture. They just want to cash out right now just because they've never made that much money in their life. And they're like, well, let's just like leave. Right?
Well, and it's tempting, I mean, I'd be tempted.
Yeah, of course. And it's just not the abundant mindset, right? So it's just like very limited, small thinking. So then, but that's good to like talk about, like, and just be like, oh, rah, rah, rah. But so what I did was I actually told the moderators of this brand, I said, listen, how much is the exact dollar amount that this community lost? And then I created a like a GoFundMe page for this brand. And then I asked everyone so all the brands that I've consulted over the past few months, that was just like about 300 or so. I said, listen, guys, this is we actually have a say in where the future of NFT is going to be like. If it's going to be something like that people are just going to associate with scams, or they're going to associate with like, people who have like, goodness in them, like the humanity, right? So like the good in people. And I said, listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to all chip in money, NFTs, and whitelist spots. And then literally everyone like just immediately offered money, NFTs, and whitelist spots. And so we're actually in the process of just like literally collecting these and just like sending it to the community. So we clean up for them, right? So that's like a little, I mean, I don't know if it's little or large, but this is something we can do to actively make it better. So that's, and like every time I see things like this, I honestly want to just, I mean, I feel bad, obviously. Like my sister has been, she's been like in a bunch of these projects where like completely rug pulled, people like completely cashed out and they never to be found. So it just leaves a bad impression. Plus also some of these people who are just coming in and investing in this project, they could be their first investment in their life.
Yeah.
Right. And then they're scarred for life thinking investment is like a very scammy thing, or they may just make a connection.
Yeah, but as we said earlier, a lot of the people who are putting money into crypto and into different things, they have no real understanding of what it is they're buying. They just think they can make a quick buck, and they're usually quite young. They put money into crypto and they get scared and they're trembling when Bitcoin drops 10K. They don't see the big picture and they don't see its value. So I do appreciate that, and I've lost a bit of money on meme stocks. I was naive and and it does scar you a little bit. I didn't know if I should be making any investments. I didn't know if I was if I was smart enough, or I thought maybe I was just, everyone's out to get me. Finances, they're not nice people, and I appreciate that I can give you that that outlook. But anyway.
No, 100%. I'm in agreement with you, and I think just anything that we can do like as part of this community, even though they're not my project, I'm not responsible for whatever happened in this project. I helped build this community that like supposedly we were going to deliver on, actually, doing all the things that we said on the roadmaps. I'm not the one actually delivering on them. The brand is. Yeah. But then it's still, like if we could just make ourselves feel responsible to some extent to just do something about it, I think it's just a lot better. Like my fear with NFT. So this is going to be somewhat controversial. I'm going to say something somewhat controversial. I have a lot of friends who are in network marketing, and I haven't done anything in network marketing myself, but they've been in this for like maybe 20 years. They've probably they've given so much money to charities. They've done so much good in the world. And a lot of people just judge them as just like this like blanket, like it's just like this thing where they're like, oh, this is just like a pyramid scheme, right? And maybe it is, I don't know, but I don't want NFT to become something like that, where everyone who thinks about NFTs say, oh, that you're just going to get scammed. Like that's the first thing comes to their mind, right? it's gonna be a rug pull like that. I would hate that to happen. So anything if anyone goes to my channel like Arvin K NFT, anything I can do, like even with this like the 100K that just got drained from my wallet, I just immediately told people, be like, hey, here's exactly what happened, so it doesn't happen to you. Like I want people to just be like, not be obviously stupid and do whatever, but like also just be powerful and just like move forward into the NFT, just lean in without having to worry that they just, they're not going to be able to do much.
Yeah. And, just a quick note on that. I actually saw a notification on LinkedIn that, you mentioned that this happened. And, you mentioned that, you might be able to afford a 100K loss in the short term, but some people that could be their life savings, and that could really, really, really ruin things for them. It's really relative. You've got celebrities who may lose, like KSI in the UK. I think he's lost, 5 million, I think, on crypto or something recently. And he's like, that's a real shame, and for a lot of people, losing 5 million is like complete life's over.
Wiped out.
Yeah. It's all subjective. Yeah. So I want to ask you a quick question, because some NFTs are ridiculous. They're just so strange. I appreciate the community, behind things, but CryptoPunks, it's just pixelated images, bored apes. They're just apes. I don't really understand them. So my question is like, what is the criteria for an NFT? What can it be? And can anything be an NFT?
Yeah. So I think that's also a good thing and a bad thing. I like the idea. I'm the kind of person I appreciate and admire people who put in time and effort into creating things. I actually love artists. Like I think every relationship I've been in, it was with an artist. I just love the art. You know what I mean? Like, I appreciate it so much. And that's actually the coolest thing for me to do, because all day I'm, in phone conversations with artists, and they're telling me about like the cool art that they believe in so much. Right now. So I think it's like really cool that there's no criteria. You can do whatever you want. There's someone that's just selfies right now, and they made like $4 or $5 million. So there's no criteria, there's no requirement, but I do like the standard to be high. So if someone's thinking about building a project, I appreciate it personally if they come up with something that they've put a lot of effort into it. Create really cool art, and just like that would just raise the bar for getting into it. But then on the other side, it's also really cool because if someone doesn't have the ability to create like really cool art, you can still have a successful NFT project. It has nothing to do with, it has something to do with the look of the art, but it's not the end of the world. Like there are a lot of actually projects that are top, like just like you're saying, they're not even aesthetically pleasing to look at. And the utilities and the communities is all that's and that's all just coming. That's literally all determining the price for those NFT projects.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting. That's all. I wanted to hear, your piece on that. So I want to wrap up shortly. So let's, I'd like to ask you if you have any, advice for someone wanting to buy NFTs. Sort of things like when do you buy, when do you sell? Just, the basics.
Cool. Yeah. So I have my own ways. I'm just going to tell people my own ways. It doesn't mean everyone should do it. I don't know if people should do it at all. But here's what I do. So knowing that, like, I've worked with a lot of successful brands, large brands that are literally like hit the first page of OpenSea. I know what it goes on to actually for a project to be successful, and I can kind of tell, right? So I think looking into what a successful project look like, and then just from the beginning, maybe just have a few in mind and just like really follow their journey on Discord. So it takes time, but really follow their journey and just see like, okay, how did they become successful? Like what was so special about them? And what your listeners would find is just, the engagement on their Discord. the engagement on their Twitter, the amount of people they've I guess accumulated in their community, and then also just being like having full integrity with the project, meaning like delivering on whatever they say, right? So things like that. Obviously, that's what I look for myself when I go and trying to buy something. Of course, there are groups, Discord servers, they provide alphas. So what that means is they will tell you, hey, like we think these projects going to do really well. And this is, by the way, I could provide alphas just like no one can do, because I see a project, if it's going, I know if a project is going to sell out if I'm doing their marketing, right? So a few days before, I can totally see. And this is obviously right now not regulated, but maybe down the line it will be. Like a lot of projects that I actually market, I buy a ton of NFTs from them just because I know obviously it's going to do well, right? And so there's that. So for people to think about, and then just follow people who have success. So if you see someone, like I told a lot of people in my socials, I said, hey, go buy Alien Friend when it was about $1,000. And then literally 3 days after that, it became it became 10K. And then, which brings me to the next point. I like to have a 5 to 10 times the number of the what 5 to 10 times what I'm actually buying. So meaning, let's say if I bought something for $500, I'm gonna see what the 5 to 10 times that number will be. And then this is my way again, like people do it differently, but I put that NFT for sale for that price, whatever that 5 to 10 times is. And I'm not going to even look at it. Right?
Immediately, I'm just gonna, do you wait?
Literally. Oh, okay. So I'll tell you more about that. I'll expand a little bit. The one that I want to sell, I typically buy 3. I get like, if I can get 3, sometimes like, there's like, they're expensive. They're not cheap. But then what I would do, I keep one, especially if it has utilities. And it's going to bring me money. It's going to bring me some cool things, maybe like exclusive things in the, maybe clubs with celebrities or whatever that is, right? So that's that. And then one, I flip immediately, because what you notice is like what you mint, meaning what you buy at a pre-sale is typically lower than what the price is going to be maybe a day later after it's been revealed, right? So you make a profit right there. And then you keep one. And then the second one is the one I'm talking about, which is you keep it for that price that you really want to sell it at. And for me, it's like 5 to 10 times right now. So I just put it at that price. And then I'm going to be like, I'm not going to look at this. If this project is doing well or not doing well, I don't care. I just wait until, and I literally put 6 months on the OpenSea for sale. And then if they bought it, great. If they didn't buy it, I just lost maybe $20 gas fees. And I delist it. I'll just, sell it for something else. That's my strategy.
Cool. So I'm going to have to wrap up now. So just before we finish, where can people find you? What are your socials, and, how can people get in touch?
Yeah, the best way to get in touch with me is my Twitter, and that is at Arvin K NFT. So it's ARVIN K. That's my last name. So K NFT. So Arvin K NFT. Actually in all socials, but I'm most responsive on Twitter. And then my website, if someone wants to market their brands, I have a course where I literally walk people through step by step with they get a lot of like group calls with me as well. And that is at soldoutnfts.io. So if someone wants to market their brands, that's the best place to go to. And then also I have a sheet. It's like a one sheet on how to market your NFT in 2 to 4 weeks. This is literally what I tell all the brands that they start with me. And I have a PDF version. So if someone from your show, if they just DM me on Twitter and say, hey, like I want the one sheet NFT marketing, I can send them that as well.
Sure. And by the way, I'll put all links to socials and websites and courses in the show notes so people can get direct access to that. Arvin Khamseh, It's been an absolutely fantastic episode. I'm hoping that I've covered all bases and provided everyone of all different levels of understanding of NFTs, crypto, everything. And so hopefully you've enjoyed. This has been me, Alex. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Thank you for having me.